Mr. Chairman, I appreciate everything you said, and I have traveled to Ukraine 5 times since the war started. I've met President Zelensky 7 times, and I've traveled with members I respect in this room who I know whose heart and mind is in the right place here. Um, what concerns me, and I get the issue that we sometimes vote for amendments but don't like the first bill. We both have to do that. But when I got sworn in, it was a special election. Mark Kirk came up to me, the first person that came up to me after I got sworn in, and he said, "You're going to get a lot of advice, but the best advice is everything that gets done that's any good gets done in the middle." My response to what you say respectfully is we're not starting anywhere in the middle, near the middle, with some of these bills. So it makes it harder for us to dance with you all, and I want to, because a compromise can't go all the way over there. And when we talk about this issue in Ukraine, I can't help but think about there's music to my words.
Good recovery.
I can't think about this in the context of the Reagan doctrine, right? We will do everything to support our allies in defense of, at the time, Soviet aggression. It concerned me then because this should be a unifying issue. And when the last supplemental was voted on, it lost close, but it lost on the Republican side. So that ought to be the uniting issue that you reference here. Well, I think the mistake that the Biden administration made was by saying, as long as it takes, and it gets to the point that I think you were addressing, this war can't go on forever. What President Zelensky was saying when he was here was, thank you, but help us win quickly. And I think we erred at times not doing some things as quickly as we should have toward that end. But for us to now say the war has to end with the de facto Russian ownership of not just Crimea, but other land, that is a green light to autocrats everywhere, and those who would be cheering not just in Russia, but in Beijing, and others who would look at this and say, those are opportunities because when push comes to shove, there's no FDR over there anymore. So it concerns me, and I just don't think that we're going to get to a resolution that's just and fair and tells the rest of the world we still care. If we say, well, we just want to end the war, if in the end what we've done is reward Putin by saying, okay, you can keep what you have, because we all know if they had taken 10 states here and occupied them, some other country, and another country said, well, why don't you let them stay in 4 because we don't want people to keep dying. We wouldn't want that, and we wouldn't want that for our good friends in Ukraine. So I think Putin understands one thing, and that is strength. So if the president wants to end the war, and he tells Putin, we're going to help Ukraine and help them win as quickly as possible, that's when Putin pays attention. Thank you for listening.
Would the gentleman yield for just 1 minute?
Certain.
And I would love to continue this dialogue. It's not a very good forum to do that, but
Sure,
we can certainly do that. We've done it before over other issues. And I'm not using this to cast historical blame or anything like that. Ukraine was invaded in 2014.
Yes.
Obama administration didn't do anything. First person to send arms to Ukraine was actually Donald Trump.
Yes.
So I don't want to get into this in a debate sense at all, because that's not what I mean. I'm just saying it's a complex thing. Its roots are deep. I think my friend and I probably share the same objectives in this regard, but it's a lot more complex than you think. In European history, particularly in this part of Europe, and I say this to the guy that used to do this for a living as a historian, is a lot more complex, than most people realize, and a lot more brutal. It is a brutal history. It is a hard history, and it is a difficult place to operate, and it's a lot closer to our adversary than it is to us. So again, I recognize choices people have to make. I don't have any problem with that whatsoever. I look forward to working with my friend on this issue in other capacities going forward. And again, I would just advise everybody on this issue, I don't take one thing out of context and try and figure out where somebody is. There's usually a pretty complex set of reasoning, particularly on something like this, as to where people end up. What my friend is trying to do, and my friend is right about the where you start, but where you start in the appropriations process is not where you finish. As all of us in this chamber that have been here any period of time know. And that's that's the way it should be. I mean, you work these things through. In the end, it will be a bipartisan product or it won't happen.
Mr. Chairman, just 30
Yeah,
seconds.
sure,
What
but
you
your
said is
time.
absolutely
Gentleman
true.
controls the
But the
time.
reason one of the reasons it's different now is that the Ukrainian army 3 years ago was a heck of a lot different than it was back then. And I think we should have done something when they went into Crimea. But the reason it's a different army is because of the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative. It funded and trained them to be an army that's as competitive as any in the world that push back the bear. So it's just this amendment strikes to your point, and that is one of the reasons it's different now, and we should have done more, is because of this funding gave them the ability to fight our fight. And they're still fighting our fight today. But thank you for listening.
Well, more importantly, thank you for yielding me the time. It was a very gracious thing to do. Gentlelady from Connecticut, Ms. Delora.